My mother died on a Tuesday in March. Pancreatic cancer, diagnosed 6 months earlier. Aggressive and merciless. She was 52 years old, and I wasn't ready to lose her. Nobody ever is, but I really, truly wasn't ready. I'm Emma Richardson, 26 now, but I was only 23 when my mother died. I work as a marketing coordinator at a tech company in Austin, Texas, and I'd spent my early 20s watching my mother fight cancer. First breast cancer when I was 19, she beat that. 2 years of remission, then the pancreatic cancer that came back and killed her in 6 months. Losing her at 23, right when I was starting my adult life, felt impossibly cruel. She was supposed to see me get married, meet my children, be there for all the moments mothers are supposed to be there for. Instead, I got 3 years. 3 years of being motherless, of navigating adulthood without the person who'd guided me through everything. The last conversation we had, before the morphine made her too foggy to track conversations, was about her engagement ring. We were alone in her hospital room. Late afternoon, light filtering through the blinds, making everything look softer than it was. "I want you to have my ring," she said, her voice weak but clear. She held up her left hand, and the ring caught the light, an Art Deco platinum band with a center diamond surrounded by sapphires. It had belonged to her grandmother, passed down to her mother, then to her. 3 generations of women in our family had worn that ring. "Mom, don't," I said, tears already forming. "You're gonna be fine." She smiled, the kind of sad smile that meant she knew better. "Emma, sweetheart, when the time comes, I want you to have it. Not now, you're young, you have plenty of time before you need an engagement ring. Let your dad keep it safe for you. But it's yours. Promise me you'll wear it when you get married." "I promise," I whispered, holding her hand carefully, afraid of hurting her, even though I knew she was already in more pain than I could imagine. She died 4 days later. I held her hand while she took her last breath, my father on her other side, both of us crying. Losing my mother at 23 destroyed me in ways I'm still processing years later. She'd been my best friend, my confidant, my anchor. I'd spent my early 20s watching my mother die in increments, and when she was finally gone, I felt hollow. At the funeral, my father barely held it together. Richard Richardson had loved my mother desperately. They'd been high school sweethearts, married at 22, together for 30 years. Watching him stand at her grave, shoulders shaking with sobs, I felt terrible for him. He'd lost his whole world. A week after the funeral, as we were sorting through Mom's things at my parents' house, I asked about the ring. "Dad, Mom said she wanted me to have her engagement ring. Eventually, she said you'd keep it safe for me." He looked up from the box of photos he'd been going through, his eyes red-rimmed and exhausted. "Of course, sweetheart. I'll keep it in the safe. When you're ready, when you meet someone and get engaged, it's yours." "Thank you," I said, hugging him. "It means everything to me. It was her grandmother's." "I know," he said quietly. "Your mother loved that ring. She'd want you to have it." I went back to my apartment that night feeling slightly comforted. I didn't have my mother, but I'd have her ring someday. A tangible piece of her, a connection to generations of women in our family, something I could wear close to my heart when I eventually got married. 3 years passed. I threw myself into my work as a marketing coordinator, tried to process my grief in therapy, slowly rebuilt my life without my mother in it. My father seemed to be doing the same. He'd retired early after Mom died, started traveling, seemed to be finding himself again. Then, 6 months ago, I met Andrew. We met at a friend's wedding, clicked immediately, and within 3 months, I knew he was the one. He proposed on a beach at sunset, simple and perfect, and I said yes without hesitation. The first thing I thought after yes was that I needed to call my mom. The second thing I thought was that I couldn't, and the grief hit me all over again. The third thing I thought was, I get to wear Mom's ring. I called my father the next day, excited despite my grief. "Dad, I have news. Andrew proposed. We're engaged." "Emma, that's wonderful." He sounded genuinely happy. "I'm so proud of you. Your mother would have been thrilled." "I know, and Dad, I'd like to have Mom's ring now. I want to wear it as my engagement ring, the way she wanted." There was a pause. A long one. "Oh, sweetheart, about that." My stomach dropped. "What about it?" "I need to tell you something. And I'm so sorry. The ring, I lost it. About a year ago. I was sorting through things. And I must have misplaced it somehow. I've looked everywhere. I even hired someone to help me search the house. But I can't find it. I felt like I'd been punched." "You lost it? Dad, how do you lose something you were keeping in a safe?" "I don't know, Emma. I'm so sorry. I've been sick about it. I know how much it meant to you, how much it meant to your mother. I've been trying to find it before you got engaged, hoping I could track it down, but..." "You've been looking for a year and didn't tell me?" I didn't want to worry you until I was sure it was really gone. I kept thinking I'd find it. I felt tears burning my eyes. That ring was the one thing I had left of her. The one thing she specifically wanted me to have. I know, honey, I'm so sorry. I'll buy you another ring, whatever you want. I don't want another ring, I said, my voice breaking. I wanted hers. We hung up shortly after. I sat in my apartment, crying, furious, and heartbroken. How do you lose something that important? Something you were specifically told to keep safe? Something that had been in our family for generations? Andrew tried to comfort me, but there was no comfort. That ring wasn't just jewelry, it was a piece of my mother, a promise she'd made me, a connection to my family history. And my father had lost it. Over the next week, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. My father wasn't careless. He was meticulous, organized, the kind of person who had a place for everything. Losing a ring he'd been explicitly told to keep safe from me seemed completely out of character. I called him again. Dad, tell me exactly what happened. When did you last see the ring? Where was it? He sounded irritated. Emma, I've been over this 100 times. I had it in my safe, then at some point when I was reorganizing, I must have moved it, and now I can't find it. I don't know what else to tell you. Can I come look? Maybe I'll see something you missed? I really don't think that's necessary. Dad, it's my mother's ring. Please. He reluctantly agreed. I drove to his house the next day, and we spent 3 hours searching every possible place the ring could be. It wasn't in the safe. It wasn't in any drawers, closets, boxes. It wasn't anywhere. As we were searching, I noticed things that hadn't registered before. The house looked different, redecorated, new furniture in the living room, new artwork, a completely redone kitchen. My father had clearly spent money since Mom died. You renovated, I said. Just updating some things, he said quickly. The house needed refreshing. It felt wrong, somehow. Disrespectful. Maybe. My mother had decorated this house, chosen every piece of furniture, every paint color, and my father had erased it all. On my way out, I noticed a photo on the mantel I didn't recognize. My father with a woman, both smiling, on what looked like a beach vacation. Who's that? I asked. My father's face went slightly red. That's Linda, a friend. We've been seeing each other. A friend? My mother had been dead for 3 years, and my father was dating, which was fine. Grief doesn't have a timeline, and he deserved happiness. But something about the way he said friend, the way he looked uncomfortable, made me uneasy. I left feeling unsettled. The missing ring, the renovations, the girlfriend he hadn't mentioned. None of it added up to anything concrete, but it all felt wrong. That night, I did something I'm not proud of. I went through my father's social media, trying to find information about Linda. His Facebook was mostly private, but I found her profile, Linda Morrison, 50 years old, worked in real estate. Her profile was public. I scrolled through her photos and found several of her and my father together, dating back almost 3 years. 3 years, since right after my mother died. One photo caught my eye. Linda wearing an elaborate necklace captioned, "Birthday gift from my amazing Richard. He knows how to spoil a girl." The photo was dated 2 weeks after my mother's funeral. I felt sick. My father had been dating Linda while my mother was barely in the ground, and he'd been buying her expensive jewelry. I kept scrolling. More photos of expensive gifts, luxury vacations, restaurants. My father had money, he'd worked in finance, had a good pension, but this level of spending was unusual for him. My parents had been comfortable but frugal. Then I found a photo from a year ago. Linda at a jewelry store, holding up her hand to show off a ring. Not an engagement ring, a cocktail ring. Large and ornate. The caption, "Richard surprised me with this gorgeous vintage ring. I'm obsessed." The ring in the photo had sapphires. My mother's ring had sapphires surrounding the center diamond. Art Deco style, platinum band, distinctively vintage. I zoomed in on the photo, my hands shaking. The ring Linda was wearing looked exactly like my mother's ring. I drove to my father's house the next morning without calling ahead. He answered the door, looking surprised and annoyed. "Emma, what are you doing here?" "I need to talk to you about the ring." "Mom's ring." "I told you I lost it. There's nothing more to discuss." "Did you sell it?" His face went pale. "What? No, why would you ask that?" "Because your girlfriend has a ring that looks exactly like Mom's. Posted on Facebook a year ago. A vintage ring you gave her." He was silent for a long moment. "That's not your mother's ring." "Then show me a photo of what you gave Linda. Let me see it up close." "Emma, you're being ridiculous. I bought Linda a ring for her birthday. It's not your mother's ring." "I lost your mother's ring. And I'm sorry, but accusing me of selling it is—" "Let me see it," I interrupted. "Call Linda right now and have her show me the ring. If it's not Mom's, then you have nothing to hide." Linda is out of town. Then show me the receipt from where you bought a ring. If you bought it, you'd have a receipt. His jaw clenched. I don't have to prove anything to you. You're upset about the ring, and I understand that, but coming here and making accusations? You sold my mother's ring, I said quietly. You sold it and gave the money to your girlfriend. That's why you can't find it. That's why you've been avoiding me. Get out of my house, he said, his voice cold. I left, but I was more certain than ever that I was right. My father had sold my mother's ring, a family heirloom, something she'd specifically wanted me to have, and given the money or the ring itself to his girlfriend. I spent the next week investigating. I called every pawn shop and jewelry buyer within 50 miles of my father's house, asking if anyone had sold them an Art Deco platinum engagement ring with sapphires in the past 3 years. On the 8th call, I hit gold. Yeah, I remember that ring, the pawn shop owner said. Beautiful piece. Early 1920 seconds. Guy sold it to me maybe 3 years ago, right after his wife died. I remember because he seemed pretty torn up. Said he needed cash quick. My stomach turned. Do you remember what you paid him? $8,000. Gave him cash on the spot. Do you still have it? No, sold it maybe 6 months later. Had it for a while. Rings like that are special. You need the right buyer. Do you have records of who bought it? I'll pay for the information. That ring belonged to my mother. My father sold it without my permission. The owner was sympathetic. He pulled the records and gave me a name. Margaret Chen, along with a phone number. I called immediately. A woman answered, and I explained the situation, that the ring had been my mother's, that my father had sold it without telling me, that I was desperate to get it back. Margaret was incredibly kind. I bought that ring for my daughter's engagement. She wore it for about a year, but then they broke up, and she gave it back to me. I've been meaning to sell it. If you want it, it's yours. I paid $12,000 for it. That's what I'd need to get back. $12,000. $4,000 more than my father had gotten. But it was my mother's ring. It was worth it. I'll take it, I said. I emptied my savings account, every penny I'd been saving for the wedding, for a down payment on a house, for our future. $12,000, gone. But I got the ring back. Margaret met me at a coffee shop the next day and handed me a small velvet box. I opened it, and there it was, my mother's ring. Exactly as I remembered. Art Deco, platinum, center diamond, sapphire, halo. I held it and cried. I'm so glad you have it back, Margaret said, tearing up herself. Family heirlooms should stay in the family. Now I had the ring. But I was out $12,000. And my father had betrayed my mother's dying wish for $8,000 in cash that he'd apparently spent on his girlfriend. I wanted him to face consequences. Real ones. My father's wedding to Linda was scheduled for 2 months later. He'd invited me, though after our confrontation about the ring, the invitation felt perfunctory. I RSVP'd yes, and brought Andrew as my +1. The wedding was at an upscale hotel, about 80 guests, a mix of my father's friends, colleagues, and extended family. I wore a black dress, petty, maybe, but I didn't care. I also wore my mother's ring on my right hand, visible and unmistakable. During the cocktail hour, I circulated, chatting with relatives I hadn't seen in years. Several commented on my ring. What a beautiful ring, Emma. Thank you, it was my mother's, her grandmother's before that, family heirloom. Oh, how lovely that you have it. Yes. I'm lucky I was able to buy it back after my father sold it to a pawn shop the week after Mom died. The conversation stopped. People stared. I said it loudly enough that nearby groups overheard. I'm sorry, what? My aunt asked. My father sold my mother's engagement ring, the one she specifically told him to keep for me, to a pawn shop for $8,000. Then he told me he'd lost it. I had to track it down and buy it back for $12,000, so I'm out $4,000, and my father lied to me for 3 years. The whispers started. People glanced at my father, who was across the room with Linda, oblivious. During dinner, I sat at a table with my aunt, uncle, and several family friends. The story of the ring came up again. I told the whole thing, my mother's dying wish, my father's lie, finding the pawn shop receipt, tracking down the buyer, spending my entire savings to get it back. He sold it a week after the funeral and used the money to buy gifts for Linda. I said clearly, he's been dating her since Mom died. The expensive jewelry, the vacations, all paid for with money from selling family heirlooms and my mother's belongings. My aunt looked horrified. Emma, are you sure? Completely sure. I have the pawn shop receipt, the records, everything. The table fell silent. Around us, other tables had gone quiet too. People were listening. When it came time for toasts, my father stood up, champagne glass in hand, and gave a speech about love and second chances and finding happiness after loss. Then my aunt stood up. I'd like to say something too. My father looked surprised but nodded. Richard, my aunt said, her voice carrying across the room. I'm glad you found happiness. But I'm curious, did you tell Linda that you paid for her birthday gifts by selling your late wife's engagement ring, the family heirloom your wife specifically asked you to save for Emma? The room went dead silent. My father's face turned bright red. I don't know what you're talking about. Emma had to spend $12,000 to buy back her own mother's ring because you sold it to a pawn shop for $8,000 a week after the funeral. Then you lied to her for 3 years and told her you'd lost it. People started murmuring. Linda looked at my father, confused and horrified. Richard, what is she talking about? This is ridiculous, my father said. Emma is upset that I'm remarrying and she's making up lies to ruin this day. I stood up, walked to the front of the room, and held up my hand, showing the ring. This is my mother's ring, the one she wanted me to have. I have the pawn shop receipt showing you sold it. I have the record showing I bought it back. And I have photos from Linda's Facebook showing you've been buying her expensive gifts since the month Mom died. I pulled out my phone and projected the photos onto the screen the venue had set up for their wedding slideshow. Linda's Facebook photos, time-stamped, showing gifts and vacations and jewelry. The timeline starting weeks after my mother's funeral. The room erupted. Family members started confronting my father. Linda looked devastated and furious. You sold your dead wife's ring to buy me gifts? Richard, what the hell is wrong with you? It was just sitting in a safe, my father said desperately. Emma wasn't going to use it for years. I needed the money. You needed money for what? Linda demanded. You told me you were financially stable. You told me those gifts came from your savings. They did come from my savings, technically. You sold a family heirloom your wife wanted your daughter to have, my aunt shouted. You betrayed her dying wish. For what? To impress your girlfriend? The wedding devolved into chaos. Half the guests left. Linda called off the ceremony on the spot, threw her bouquet at my father, and walked out. Extended family surrounded me, apologizing, telling me they had no idea, asking how they could help. My father tried to approach me. Emma, please, you've humiliated me. You ruined my wedding. You sold my mother's ring, I said calmly. You lied to me for 3 years. You betrayed her dying wish so you could buy gifts for your girlfriend. I didn't ruin your wedding. You ruined it the moment you decided a piece of jewelry meant more to you than your daughter or your wife's memory. He didn't have an answer for that. I left the hotel with Andrew, wearing my mother's ring, feeling lighter than I had in 3 years. The fallout was intense. My father's family, my aunts, uncles, cousins, reached out to offer support and express their disgust with his behavior. Several relatives gave me money to help replace what I'd spent buying back the ring, refusing to let me refuse. Linda broke up with my father and demanded he repay her for every gift he'd bought with money from selling my mother's belongings. Apparently, the ring wasn't the only thing he'd sold. He'd sold jewelry, furniture, art, all things my mother had treasured, all to fund his new relationship. My father tried to apologize several times. I didn't respond. He'd had 3 years to tell me the truth. He'd chosen to lie, to let me believe he'd lost something precious through carelessness rather than admit he'd sold it for cash. Andrew and I got married 6 months later. I wore my mother's ring as my engagement ring, exactly as she'd wanted. My father wasn't invited to the wedding. At the reception, I gave a toast, thanking everyone who'd helped me recover my mother's ring. I didn't mention my father by name, but everyone knew who I was talking about. My mother taught me that family heirlooms aren't just objects, I said. They're promises between generations. They're love made tangible. She wanted me to have her ring, and because of people who understood what family means, I do. I get to wear her love every day, and that's worth more than any amount of money. My aunt hugged me afterward, crying, "Your mother would be so proud of you for fighting to get the ring back, for standing up to your father." I think about that a lot, whether Mom would be proud or disappointed that I cut him out of my life. But then I look at her ring on my hand and remember her words, "Promise me you'll wear it when you get married." Keeping that promise is what matters. My father emails sometimes, trying to fix things. I don't reply. Some betrayals are too deep. He didn't just sell a ring, he sold Mom's dying wish and a piece of our family's history, just to impress a girlfriend. That's not someone I want in my life, and not someone Mom would have wanted in it either. The ring cost me $12,000 and my relationship with my father. But I'd make the same choice again. Some promises are worth keeping, and some people show you exactly who they are. My father did when he sold my mother's ring a week after her funeral. I showed him who I am when I took it back. I think Mom would approve.